So we're going to go through a technique today that shows you how to evaluate your thoughts. So this is a very fundamental technique that we use in CBT to help us think about the way that we do think. So Adam, what we thought we could do here is obviously do a short role play where you take on the role of a client and I'll take on the role of a therapist. Okay?
Yeah.
So I'd like to share with you the idea of using a thought record, which helps us kind of identify particular thoughts that are at the heart of our emotional distress, and then also takes us into thinking about how we can evaluate those thoughts and then maybe get to a point where we might have a new understanding that's possibly more accurate and possibly more helpful in the way of sort of thinking about a particular event that's happened.
Okay.
Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
What I'd like for you to do is give me a recent example that you can remember where something happened where I know we're talking about you've been feeling low, perhaps where you felt quite low recently.
Okay, so I'm going to, let's imagine that I'm a few years older than I am. I've retired and I'm feeling a bit down. And so my example that we could work through would be that I've spent the day with my daughter and son-in-law and their kids, and for some unaccountable reason, when I was walking back to my house, we'll assume I'm widowed, when I was walking back to my house, I just felt, I had the thought, what's the point of it all?
Okay, so it sounds like we've got first part here, which is the trigger of the situation, which is you leaving the house having spent...
And I had a good day.
And had a good day,
yeah.
Having spent it with the family.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going to say to you, I've no idea why I had a good day. My family's safe. Okay, I've been widowed, but I've been widowed for a while. I don't know why I felt down. What?
So you noticed yourself having an emotion.
Yeah.
And what you kind of describing that as feeling down.
Yeah. Downcast. Yeah.
And certain thoughts. So we're trying to record what it is that was going through your mind. You said, I don't know why I feel down.
No, I had a good day. Everybody was happy. Everybody had a nice day. They all seemed to be very happy doing what they were doing. It's quite hard to work out what the problem is really.
So it sounds like several thoughts going through your mind there. What is useful in terms of what we want to try and understand is perhaps what some of these thoughts or these feelings mean to you.
Okay.
If you was to take, you're thinking back and trying to understand what was really kind of upsetting about that experience, what do you think you would say?
Well, I felt that down feeling as I was leaving, and I'd felt it early on in the day, just after lunch. They all left the table, and I was left sitting on my own, and my daughter and her husband had cleared the table, and the kids had gone off to play. And I think I had the same feeling then, and it was around something to do with, well, they're all getting on with their own things, and they don't really... That's the one. They don't really need me. That's what the thought was.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And so this coming up in those two occasions where you found yourself separate or alone.
Yeah. When I went home, I was having the same. My mind was going on the same thing. When I went home, daughter and husband are happy in front of the TV. They don't. They're happy to have me visit, but they're watching the TV. They're fine. Older granddaughter's gone off with her boyfriend for the evening. Younger grandson is playing with his friends in the garden.
Yeah.
So I'm a bit redundant, really. I'm going home, and they're fine.
So really feeling like you weren't needed.
Yeah, I'm glad they're fine, but that's the feeling of, well, yeah, but they're fine without me. And they all used to need me.
Okay. we're going to call this an automatic thought, and perhaps that it's a negative automatic thought. And the reason it might be called that is that it seems to be at the heart of what's making you feel kind of really downcast here. And it seems like it might be something for us to think about some more.
Okay.
The first way in which I think it'd be useful to think about it is almost trying to see how true it might be that you're not needed by them.
Right.
Okay? And it's the idea that, I'm not saying that what you're thinking isn't true, but really what I want us to be able to do is just to kind of think about that some more and look at some evidence for and against that being the case.
Okay.
Does that sound alright?
Yeah.
So, if we were thinking, okay, what is the evidence that you think maybe demonstrates this, supports this?
Well, I suppose I've just outlined it really. The evidence is that when I left and at lunchtime, they were getting on with their activities, all of them, in different places, in different rooms. There was nobody asking me how to do anything or asking for my help. In fact, at lunchtime I'd said, I'll come and wash up, shall I? And they'd all said, no, we'll do it.
Uh-huh.
So they don't need me.
Okay.
That's the evidence.
So a few examples there of them not requiring you to sort of be involved or do anything.
No.
Okay. It's understandable. Let's turn it on its head for the moment and try and see if we can think of anything that suggests otherwise. Anything that suggests maybe that it's not so definitive, not so true that they don't need you. What would you say?
Well, it would. My daughter did ask me earlier on in the day, before lunch, she was asking me for some advice. They're having an extension built, and I've got a professional background in, I used to be a surveyor, and they were asking me, well, both of them actually were asking me some stuff about having the extension done and what they could have done and what the process would be. So there was quite a long, now I think about it, there was quite a long conversation
about
that. But then that was about my professional skills. So I'm still not sure they really need me, as a sort of father. But there was something there. Now, let me think. My younger grandchild, my grandson, I did spend some time playing with him before his friend came. So I suppose you could say I'm a reasonable playmate. I think he prefers his friend, but I was able to get down and play with the Lego bricks and stuff, and he seemed quite happy to play for a while. And we went to the local shops, and I bought some sweets for him, and we had a nice walk. I didn't have much contact with my granddaughter. In fact, she hardly spoke to me. But then she is 17 and she does have a boyfriend, and she doesn't speak to her parents either, so that's maybe nothing to do with me. That's grandchildren, that's teenagers for you. So maybe I shouldn't worry about that bit too much. Yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like a few examples there that you can think of where it suggests otherwise, suggests maybe you were needed more, and at least were involved more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else that comes to mind in terms of how you felt involved?
I suppose if I try and think about it in a different way, I could. I think if you ask my daughter, and if I said to her, "Do you need me?" I think she would say, "Of course we do," and I think she'd mean it. And I don't think she needs me on a day-to-day basis, but I'm pretty sure that she's glad that I'm around.
Right.
And she knows that if she had a bad time and something terrible happened, she would know that she could come to me, and I would do my best to sort things out. So I guess I'm not needed so much on a day-to-day basis, but then I suppose in a way that's a good thing, that she's got some independence. But she needs me in the sense of knowing I'm there, I think. She's still happy to know I'm there. When, between ourselves, when she and her husband went through a bit of a bad patch, it was me she came to talk to.
Right.
So that says something, I guess. Not every daughter would go and talk to her dad about trouble with her, especially when they're married and so on.
Certainly not. So something about you being reliable to your daughter and being approachable and available.
Yeah, that's true now I think about it.
Yeah. Okay. Now those things sound quite important in terms of examples, really. I mean, earlier on when you were talking about you'd noticed, well, at the time when you'd noticed that you were kind of alone and felt not needed, had these ideas, these examples that you just meant that suggest otherwise come into your mind at all?
No, to be honest, I hadn't. No, I think I got a bit down, and I think I got in a bit of a state of mind of not really feeling a bit. Well, my granddaughter would say meh. I got into a state of feeling a bit, and maybe I've exaggerated a little bit what was going on there.
Okay, so I think you've highlighted at least a couple of things for me there, and that is one, that it's not so easy to think of things in a balanced way, maybe when we've got a strong feeling about something. So you were feeling quite down, and it was really this sort of one perspective that was dominating your mind at that moment. And the other thing being that when we're removed from a situation, we can maybe think about something in a different way, which does help us reach a more balanced point of view.
Yeah, I see that.
The final step of this, now we've talked about evidence for and against, is trying to come up with a statement that I guess summarises what we've just talked about here. I guess is more accurate in terms of before you felt like that you weren't needed. Now that you've thought about it in some greater detail, what would you say might be more accurate, more true?
I suppose it would be right to say my family need me in a different way. They're not dependent on me in the way they used to be, but they do value me.
Okay.
And they like me being around.
Right.
That would be true, I think. I think I got hung up a bit perhaps on. I used to quite like it. I quite like it when people really need you. And maybe that's, when my daughter was a lot younger, I quite liked being the dad who would sort things out for her, and I suppose I miss that. But it's not, now I say it, it's not true to say that she doesn't need me. She just needs me in a more grown-up way, I suppose.
Right. Yeah. Oh, well, I understand your feelings there, and that change, I think, is kind of innately challenging.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Well, especially when it goes with all these other things about retirement and, when you get older, you just feel people look through you, and they don't. When I was working, they used to say, "Oh, what do you do?" And you'd feel good about the job I did. I'd feel good about it. And of course, I don't do that anymore. And people say, "What do you do?" Or "You're retired, are you?" And that doesn't feel so good. So I guess it's part of a whole load of other things as well. And perhaps I'm starting to bunch it all into one and see things generally as being perhaps a bit worse than they are.
Okay.
It's not great getting old, but maybe I'm over-egging it.
That sounds useful to be aware of, though.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I need to take that on board.
And coming up with a new statement like this, can you be used just to remind yourself, should you find this kind of feeling, reaction coming up in future context, kind of really distracting you from where you are and making you feel quite downbeat. It's just maybe kind of trying to recall this, that it's not completely true really that you're not needed, but that you're needed in a different way, less dependent on you, but still valued, and that they like having you around.
Yeah, I should maybe write it down or something, or when the thought comes to mind, somewhere where I can see it or something.
Great idea.
Put it in my diary or something. But that what you just said, I'm not needed. It's not that I'm not needed. I'm needed in a different way. I'm still needed. I'm needed in a different way. I need to remember that.
Okay, excellent. So what we've just demonstrated there is how to use a thought record and how to go through a process of evaluating your own thoughts. As you can see, we've not just tried to think positive or replace that negative thought with something else, but we've actually kind of gone through in a slower way and in detail, trying to examine evidence for and evidence against that initial negative automatic thought, and then coming up with a statement that actually reflects reality more accurately.